Hello everyone, and welcome back to Goblin's Droblin, the show about the precarious life of cartoon characters. And before you say anything, yes, I'm aware that I haven't uploaded in quite a while, but that summertime smoke just hit me like a truck and tore up my throat, so I can finally talk again. So today I will be doing a speed paint for you. As you know, probably, I'm a big fan of Dungeons & Dragons, so what we're doing today is kind of a dream team party I've put together with a bunch of favorite characters from each of my friends. These guys haven't actually come together before, but, it will be fun, so I drew a picture of it, because that's what I do. And while we're here, I'll tell you some fun stories about these guys. So this first character I'm kind of inking right now is named Big Death. He is a half-orc druid and my first Dungeons & Dragons character ever. Basically, he grew up in a peaceful orc village, which is rare, but they still had barbarians because you can only be so peaceful as an orc. But he basically discovered the concept of people using magic and bought a bunch of books, didn't tell anyone because he was embarrassed, and somehow through a series of accidents became a druid and gained those abilities. So he honestly just goes around smashing things mostly, but he does shoot lightning sometimes at the same time, so there you go. When we first started the game that I made Big Death in, this was my first Dungeons & Dragons experience, like, ever. And I just had clubs and slings, and I think I got, like, leather armor, so I had a ton of gold left over from making the character. And I noticed that pigs were an option in, like, the trade goods. And with the gold I had, I could have bought, I think it was 11 pigs, and just had them. But my DM for that game gave me the option to get 6 pigs, and then he would give me a cart that they could carry us around in. And I decided to go with that instead. So, yeah, that's basically our means for transportation whenever the other party members don't want to just ride their horses. This next character is one of my friend's characters. Her name is Sparrow, and she's a halfling rogue. And the first game we played her in, this is back when we were playing 3.5, and she had, I'm not kidding, 65 stealth bonus. That was her base. If she rolled a 2, she had a 67 stealth. There was hardly any point of her rolling. I still think that she should have spent that entire game hiding from us, the party, and just, like, shooting rocks out of her sling whenever she had the chance. Speaking of sling, I had some troubles figuring out how to draw this one, but I think I got it. She really does just sneak around and try not to talk to anyone except the party member. She did end up talking to us eventually. Got a few details on Big Death here before I moved on to the F-line. So as you can kind of see, I didn't do my sketch digitally like I'm doing the inking digitally. I drew that on paper because honestly I still have a bit of trouble with drawing digitally. I'm way better with just a pencil, but it's hard to record that. So this way I at least have the lines down, you know, and then I can just draw over them. This next character is actually another character from that very first game that Big Death was from. His name is Mott Navalis. He's a dwarven barbarian, and he's a very bad influence on my very nice half-orc boy. I mean, you can't exactly say that Big Death is innocent, but he's definitely the greedy side of dwarfdom. Just a lot of robbing and scamming, and we're just a couple of brutes, really, and that's honestly why it's so fun for us to play them together. Every once in a while, we'll make up a game and just pull these guys out and have ourselves a time. There was this one time where he convinced one of the guards that had surrounded him and a couple of our other party members to drink from his ass from... Oh boy, that was a slip of the tongue. To drink from his flask of alchemist fire, which went just about as well as you can guess. Even if you don't know what alchemist fire is, I'm betting you have a guess, and it's probably right. So I have some trouble with this boot here. I've never had a piece of leather give me so much issue. As you can see, I'm not exactly going for a realistic look on these guys. They're basically cartoon characters anyway, so there's no point in it. This next character is named Apollon, and he came from the first game I ever Dungeon Mastered for, and it's also the game where I decided to never allow internet homebrew ever again, because all of those characters had really awful homebrew races, and then two of them, no, I guess one of them had a really awful homebrew class. Everything was just broken and ridiculous, and it's a good thing it was kind of a joke game anyway, because, oh man. But, Apollon as a character, I've always really liked, and so does the guy who plays him. He talks a lot about missing him and wanting to play as him again, which I made him an NPC in the game we're playing now, so that was kind of nice, I thought. Nice of me. I'm a nice guy. Basically, Apollon is a starving artist. He's a musician who they met on the street in like a nest of sticks, and he just has his guitar axe, and he just kind of gets pulled along on the adventures and is a sad sack. He's a sad sack, that's what he is, and I love him. But he's actually pretty powerful. I don't think he wants to be, though. I think he just wants to play music. That's too bad. This version of him is actually kind of a medieval costume that I haven't made before, because in the game he came from, it was a modern day game, and he literally just wore a hoodie and like some jeans. He did always wear the mask over his mouth, though, because haha, he killed a man with his voice. Oops. Alright, there's the line art down. Time to get into some coloring. As you will quickly notice here, the color strategy for Big Death is basically gaudy. Like, you know, green orcs aren't all that rare. I think there's plenty of people who imagine them of that kind of color, but not this bright, like, lime green I've given him now. But that is on purpose. I wanted to do that. As far as his costume goes, a lot of it is just brown. He is a druid after all. But, you know, even if you have a costume that's all one color, you can still change up the shade and make everything look different, like you see with his club here versus his robe, and even his shorts, his little booty shorts that I had to put him in for some reason, because God forbid my druid wore pants. Oh, I never introduced this guy. This is Dave. He's the alpha pig. He's the alpha war pig that Big Death has. in Pathfinder, which I played as Big Death in a little bit, druids all had animal companions, and boars were an option, and so I just took one of those pigs that I had bought back when we were playing him in 3.5, and he became the leader. So 6 pigs: Dave, Wheat, White, Sourdough, Wonder, and Potato. Yes, they are all named after bread. Don't at me. I went with kind of dark muted colors for Sparrow, something that she looks like she could sneak around in, as if anyone would see her anyway. Also, the amount of damage she could do with that sling in that game was just about as terrifying as her sneak bonus, but I think my brain blocked out that information because it would drive me insane to think about too much. Her eyebrows were kind of behind her hair there, as you can see, but again, this isn't realistic by any means, so that's a little trick you can do, is just drawing in the white lines against the hair color. This whole party is very brownish. We're not exactly very vibrant, for the most part. The whole horned helmet on the barbarian thing is something that started with Mott, who, by the way, is played by Tommy. I don't think I mentioned that. He's been on here before. You know him. He's a guy who's done some pretty despicable things on this channel, so... But the horned helmet on barbarians, that's stuck with me. That's something I just expect on barbarians now, even though it's stupid. So Apollin's actual race, his horrible homebrew race, his horrible, broken, awful thing that he did, which it's my fault that he did it. I should have stopped it from happening, but I didn't. Is called Darkfolk, and you can try to look it up, but let's face it, a race called Darkfolk is one of like 40 edgelord homebrew races you might find on any one wiki. So... good luck. Basically, they were very, very sound-based just as a race, and then he found an audio kinetic class, which was not only broken, we're talking like paladin base attack bonuses, and then like all these ridiculous unbalanced spells, which it used a psionic system, which if you played psionic in 3.5, that just by itself is broken. But it wasn't finished. I had to finish the class because I let him do it, and then we leveled up and we realized, oh, not everything is here. And that was bad, and everyone agreed. So yeah, I don't like homebrew, so don't get surprised if I rant about it. I guess I like homebrew that's made like at the table, but to just pull it off the internet, I'm always just no. Immediately. I don't allow it in my games, personally. Apollin's the the one in this party with the most cool colors, I guess. Just a lot of dark blues and grays and emo colors. And then to contrast that, I gave him yellow underneath his cape, which I thought looked kind of cool. Flat colors are down. This is where I start working on my shading. Usually when I shade, I just kind of use the spray can tool and I select the color that I'm trying to shade. Eyedropper it, turn it down, and then as you can see here, I just go around where the light source isn't touching. Which in this picture, the light source is actually going to be a spell kind of bursting between Big Death's two fingers there. That's why his hand is in that stupid position. And I use the spray can because it adds kind of a automatic gradient and you don't have to do much to it. Although, as you'll see on his robe here, I'll fill out everything with the spray can where I want the shadows to go, and then I'll grab the blending tool and I'll kind of mix it around. So I really just go crazy and kind of spread it out, spread the gradient out, and it kind of gives things a softer shading. So I'll do that on things like his robe, but on his skin, which is supposed to be a little bit coarser. It's not like cotton. I just do the basic spray can. Oh, also, as you can see, Big Death is a blonde half-orc, which shouldn't work, but here we are. So, like Big Death's skin, I just use the basic spray can tool. I usually use a bit of a softer... my brain doesn't work. Softer brush, I guess. Softer spray brush for most things. But then for his leather armor, I use the hard one because it brings it in a little more, makes it look a little more solid. So for really hard things, like Ma has a lot, he has his horns, he has the brim of his hat, he has the blade of his axe and the handle. Rather than using the spray brush tool, I'll just use like a pen and fill in the shading. Then it's harder, it makes it look like more solid surface. Oh, I had to change up Apollin's cloak color a little bit because it was blending into Mott's headband on his hat there. I actually like it brighter like that though. I don't do very much shading on the axe blade because I want to really go in there with the highlights later. And then I just scribble in some hair on the beard. I have to clean up some colors a little bit mostly because I'm an idiot. Looks like hair. A little bit to make sure I have everything. I experiment a bit with lightning effects here. There's probably an easier way to do it than what I did, but basically I just drew a little lightning bolt pattern, selected around it, and then drew over a little glow effect with the spray can. Ta-da! And with that, we move on to highlights. It's a lot like what I did with the shading, except I worry a little bit less about, different softnesses and stuff. I basically just take the softer airbrush, turn the base color up a little bit, and kind of rim around where the light is coming from, which again, in this case, is Big Death's lightning mostly. Can't really see the highlights I put in his hair, can you? Or did I do them yet? That's how much you can't see them. If you had a more intense, specifically colored light, like a big old bonfire, or maybe even a bigger lightning ball in his hand, you might do highlights in that color. Like here, those highlights along Sparrow's body, and her face might have been blue, but I decided to just go with basic lighter highlights because it's not a very strong spark, I figure. But it can add a really cool lighting effect to do that. Put in some just white highlights in her hair to make it look shiny. Shiny, healthy, halfling hair. Like for the shading with hard objects like horns, axe, hat rim, I used a pen rather than the airbrush. Make it look more like a metallic sheen. Then I kind of do this, and I do this thing where I just fill in between the lines a couple times, and the computer just bursts it out like you see on Mott's axe blade there. And I think it gives a kind of a cool effect. It's not exactly professional. Oh, I completely forgot to do the shading on Apollo's legs until this step, so whoops! I wonder why I do speed paints when it just shows everyone how bad I am at things. But hey. I decided to whip up a simple background so they'd have somewhere to be. I was going to do like a grassland forest situation like usual, but Big Death was kind of melting into it, and it's easier to find a natural looking different brown shade despite all the brown in these guys. So I did more of a mountainous, rocky type thing, and then I just did a gradient on the sky to make it kind of look sunset-y, and then, you know, thank Cord for Clip Studio Paint stamping tools. Oh boy. I think it's a good idea to kind of make your background by itself and then kind of put the characters in it, then you have a complete place, rather than kind of building the background around your character. Sometimes then you mix things up and it doesn't quite look like they're really there. But anyway, after adding some shadows, here we have it. The Dream Team! Big Death, Mont Navalis, Sparrow, and Apollon. Well guys, thanks for watching me mess up for so long, but I think the end result was pretty cool. This would be such a fun game to play. I don't know if I really brought across how awesome all these characters are in my rambling, but yeah, almost makes me sad that it cannot be. Anyway, let's get back to the happy times. Hopefully I'll be able to update more in the near future. And if not, you know, there's still This Is the Life, my webcomic, or you could follow me on Twitter and Facebook, and that's where I post a lot of different irreverent artworks like this one you saw me draw today, but without all the rambling beforehand, so that's tons of fun. Anyway, I'm gonna go now, so this is Goblins, signing out.